Traffic Jam is on now.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, again. I am your humble correspondent, Dr. Dre, and we're at the Traffic Jams podcast. We have a very special guest in the house, good friend of mine for many, many years. You know, I hate saying good friend all the time because people say that it's become like a cliche. I want to say one of my brothers from being in this industry, being in the music industry, entertainment industry for a very long time. The one, the only MC Serch, or as he's just humbly called now, Serch. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dre. How are you, sir? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling well, man. You know,
Good.
I'm just hanging out with my MTV rasps and making it work for me. How about you?
You know what? I'm trying to breathe clean air, bro. In through the nose, out through the mouth, one day at a time, my friend.
Of course, as we stand strong. How many years have you been involved in, I would call the rap hip hop world?
I put out my first record, Melissa, in 1985. So, and I made a living in the industry since 1988. So I've never, well, shouldn't say never, it's inaccurate, but I've always made a living in one form or another because of hip hop since I'm 18 years old.
That's right. You've been always very creative on the mark. Where were you based out of? Where did you start?
Far Rockaway, Queens. It's where I started. It's where my mom and dad had their humble little home. It's where, 5 minutes from the beach, 5 minutes from Redfern Projects, 5 minutes from Mott Avenue, where all the cute Puerto Rican and Dominican chicks was at. It's kind of, where I got my life lessons, and obviously being able to bop into, Manhattan and the 5 boroughs. The one cool thing about living in Far Rockaway is that the A train was the only subway that went through all 5 boroughs. Well, didn't go through Staten Island, sorry. 4 connecting boroughs. For those who don't know, we're outside, but Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Manhattan.
And we're speaking of New York, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, for those who don't know. It was easy to bop around and go to different places. If I wanted to go to Latin Quarter and my car wasn't running, I'd get off at 42nd Street. A train took me right there. Hop, skip, and jump there. If I wanted to go to the Harlem World, or if I wanted to go to the Rooftop, 155th, the A train went to 145th, so it was easy access to getting around. And
was it an easy climb for you as far as jumping into the hip hop community, especially in the early 80s when there was always so much, how should we say, diversity from the other side of the window?
Well, I wouldn't say there was diversity. There was no diversity because I was the diversity.
No. When I say diversity, meaning joining into.
Oh, you mean adversity? I'm sorry,
culture.
Adversity. I see. I'm sorry.
No, not adversity. Diversity, because when I first met you, I treated you like you were everyone else that we knew.
Yeah,
there was no breakage because of skin color.
Yeah, but that was rare. Like meeting you at Spectrum City and meeting you at Hofstra Radio.
No, WBAU.
BAU, excuse me.
BAU at Adelphi, no problem.
Delphi.
Just the great Jeff Air Force, the late great Jeff Air Force was at Hofstra University.
Jeff, right. Who, by the way, gave me one of the funniest, he had some of the funniest tapes of radio shows I'd ever heard. He taped all these different shows.
Yes.
But when I met you guys up at Spectrum City and BAU, it was just hip hop, and it wasn't even called hip hop at the time. It was just, music and.
It was rap music. We called it rap music back then.
Yeah, no, that's what we called it.
And you know why I always use that distinction? Because today's audience is so into cookie cutting the music, the culture, the vibe, the dance, the art, the whole thing. Because it's, that's the one thing that I felt destroyed music in general. Because everybody went to fit a small quarter where we said, no, we just put it all in one place and let everyone be themselves.
I was listening to Grand Mixer DST. He made a really interesting comment in Clubhouse about a month ago. He said, the term hip hop was coined by someone not from our culture. We were, for us, it was, writing your name on the wall, DJing in a park, rapping in a park, or rapping over a breakbeat, or dancing on the floor. Somebody coined that phrase in a magazine or something, or somebody maybe in the Times in New York, or it was a derogatory term. It wasn't a term that we accepted, but we eventually didn't
Embraced
fight the wave. Yeah, we didn't fight the wave. We embraced it.
You're watching The Traffic Jam.
what made people like yourself very special, because you didn't broach it from a position of, well, this is my skin color and I'm a rapper. You said, no, I'm going to compete equally with my verbiage and my talent with the talent that's out there.
Well, that was the premise, is that, this is a Black art form. And if I'm going to be a part of this art form, I have to not only respect it for who, made it before me, but also, make sure that I don't, trample on it or do anything that people would see as anything less than, paying homage and doing the best that I can to make the music to the best of my ability.
Now, I watched you early days when there was a thing called the New Music Seminar, and you used to go into that, what do you want to call it, conference, and you would hustle harder than anyone I've ever seen to get a deal. Give us a story from those days that made you so special.
I mean,
how you got your deal.
I mean, honestly, the New Music Seminar for me was really how we got signed to Def Jam. A dear friend, Dave Funkenklein, may he rest in peace, was running the battle for world supremacy. He was running the MC and the DJ battle. And he asked me to battle. He had heard, that I was, a battle MC. And he asked me to battle. And I went up against Ronan Rowe in the first round. And, I was a ferocious battle MC. Like, I took a very personal approach to battling, which was, I'm not going to let you stand in the way of anything that I'm trying to get. And at that moment, it was getting the crown of being, the MC champion of the world's, world supremacy, because that's what it was called. It was DJ battle for world supremacy, MC battle for world supremacy, even though it was like, the 5 boroughs, I looked at it as like, what it was. And there was like, this kid, young MC who came in from another place. And there was this guy, Bango, who came in from Cleveland. So there was, MCs from around the world in my mind.
Globally. It was as global as we could reach without technology, believe it, at that time.
And then Ronan Rowe, I just slayed this dude. It was embarrassing. And then the next MC came up, and the next MC came up. And then the finals were at the Hammerstein Ballroom. And, it was, the top 16 MCs or whatever. And battling one of the guys from Raven T, from the Mighty Dismasters. He had a huge record at the time. And I was fumbling. I did something against my better judgment. I thought I would write something to battle him. And everything I ever did was off the top of my head. I was a much better MC off the top of my head. And I fumbled. I started to hear the boos. And then I saw him getting ready to prepare. And then I attacked him for preparing with something written. Saved my ass. While I'm waiting to get on stage, Mr. Magic comes behind me and tries to grab my mic. I'm just about to go on stage. And there was a mic on stage. And for those who don't know, Mr. Magic was on WBLS. It was him and Marley Marl, the In Control radio show. Him, Magic, and Red Alert had the 2 big, weekend rap shows in New York City.
Along with Chuck Chill Out.
Yes, sir.
You know me, I'm going to always keep it where
no, please. And so Magic, Magic went to grab my mic. I was like, yo, I'm about to get on stage. And, Magic was famous. Do you know who I am? He always loved it. Do you know who I am?
His famous question.
line. Oh, yeah. May he rest in peace. But it's like, do you know who I am? And I'm like, yeah, I know who you are. Do you know who I am? I'm about to go on stage. And as I'm going on stage, he throws a cup of water on my back. So now it didn't matter who I was battling. I don't even remember who I was battling, to be honest with you. My 2 rounds were all about Mr. Magic. And I went ham. I started telling people the truth about BLS, how you had to pay Magic with blow or money to get your record played. They shouldn't call it BLS. They should call it BL Fest. Fuck Magic. I'd rather listen to Red Alert saying, yay.
And the crowd went crazy.
Laughing their asses off.
I was there. I know.
And the Mike doc from Roxanne Shante got out of rehab. So then I welcomed him back. And I said, if you got any blow left, give it to Magic. He'll take it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it was just like, and then I looked at the countdown. I said, my round is over, just like your career, son. 3, 2, 1, my job's done. And it went burn, and the crowd went crazy. And when I went backstage, I'm fuming. Steam is coming off my head, and I feel somebody grab my shoulders. So I turn around like, yo, who the fuck is? And it's Russell Simmons, and he said, if anybody asks you, tell them you signed a Def Jam. Who's your lawyer? We'll reach out to your lawyer tomorrow. And that's how Third Base got their deal.
My name is April Walker of Walkerware, and you're watching the Traffic Jam.
Now, how did Third Base come about? Because when I met you, you were MC Serch. How did Third Base come to pass?
I was working on my solo record, completely solo. I was signed to Rush Management as a solo artist. I was working with Sam Sever, the producer, and I was being courted by A&M Records as a solo artist. But the truth of the matter was, Dre, like the records didn't feel, the demos that I made didn't feel great. Like there just was something about them that felt off. But I felt like, you know what, I must be doing something right because the label wants to sign me. So I must be doing something right, and Sam was an amazing producer, but just something about my lyrics. I don't know. It was the choruses, something
it didn't fit. It felt candy coated.
No, it didn't. No. It didn't feel candy coated. That's inappropriate. It just didn't feel right. It didn't feel in the pocket. How's that?
Okay.
It was not, there was none candy coated.
You know better than me.
Yeah, no, the shit was real, but there was nothing, it just didn't. But I was like, okay, it still must be dope if this guy, Steve Rabowski, who, made the deal for Def Jam at CBS and who's now at A&M, is courting me, I must be doing something right, And I get a call from Sam, and Sam says, yo, you should come to the house. And I said, what's up? And he said, yo, there's this dude here. He got stood up in the studio. He was supposed to meet up with this one and this one and this one. They stood him up. He paid for all the studio time at Chungking. He got stood up. But yo, the record he made it's really dope and yada yada. I said, okay. So I come to Sam's apartment, and there's a dude there who would then become my future partner in Third Base. And they played me this record, and it was incredible. It was way better than anything that I had done. And as soon as I heard him rhyme, I was like, oh, I got some shit for this. And then I started rhyming, and it just felt better. It just felt like whatever was missing was now in place. And when I was like, yo, we got to go meet, Steve Rabowski, da-da-da-da. And they were like, yo, well, you should know that this dude that you're rhyming with, he's also signed to Rush. And, you guys are going to be competing. So why compete? Why don't we just make a group? Which I later found out was a lie. That this my old partner, was never signed to Rush. There was no interest in signing him ever. They didn't know anything about him. So when I got to Chungking and I met with Steve Rabowski and another mutual friend of ours, Scott Koenig, who were in the room, I said, yo, I'm not a soloist anymore. It's this group. We're called Three the Hard Way. And, we made 3 demos in one night. And here's the demos. And we played them Words of Wisdom, Product of the Environment, and Triple Stage Darkness, which all became, songs on the Cactus album. This guy said, Steve Rabowski, I don't really get the group thing. I don't get it, but we'll talk. And they left, and he signed a kid out of Houston named Raheem. And while I was in the studio, a mutual friend of ours, a future mutual manager of ours named Leor Cohen, called the studio. You fucked up the deal, Serch. Get out of the studio. I am not paying for another penny of this demo. Fuck you. You fucked it all up, Serch. Fuck, I'm fired. You are fired. And from that moment, 2.5 years later, to Russell, scratching my back, 1.5 years later, telling me, if anybody asks you, you signed a Def Jam. And then the following year at the New Music Seminar, I ran the seminar battle and was the one who brought in rap pages and 2 magazines for, to be part of the battle sponsorship package. And then I ran the MC and DJ battle. I was the host. And then we put out our album 6 months later.
You're watching The Traffic Jam.
So tell me, what were your thoughts about the New Music Seminar, Serch?
I have great memories of the New Music Seminar. I have a lot of fond memories of going to the seminar, seeing, artists, up and coming artists. The first time I saw First Priority Family, the first time I saw King Son and Demo Ed perform was during a New Music Seminar showcase. The first panel I ever did was during the New Music Seminar with MC Light and talking about the business of music. And yeah, man, I have a lot of great memories of being a part of the New Music Seminar.
Some of the cool things from the New Music Seminar is those bags that you would get stuck with CDs, magazines, and a lot of tchotchke, as we called it back then.
A lot of tchotchkes.
Of just a bunch of stuff that by the time you got home each day and you pulled it on, it could fill up a whole thing, and you'd sift through it all and you find a couple of numbers, a couple of good CDs, a couple of decent artists, and the whole thing. So after you've had your great experience at the New Music Seminar and the Cactus album comes out, what created this I should say battle between yourself and MC Hammer at the time?
I think that Hammer's problem was something that my old rapping partner said on a record called The Cactus. The Cactus, just to kind of put it in context first and foremost, the idea of Hammer dissing Run DMC on Turn This Mother Out was a personal problem for me because Jam Master Jay was one of the big reasons I even had a record come out as a soloist in 1985. So Run DMC were, to me, the pinnacle of the reason that we all had an opportunity to do what we did, not just in New York, but around the world. So for this guy to say you ain't hitting in New York and to have, the Run DMC lookalikes and all of that, it just, to me, it was a slap in the face. And for him to have success, not only the way he looked, but the way he dressed, it wasn't something that us kids from the street could really relate to. It wasn't something that we identified with. But for his
album, that a pro or a con of the Yo MTV Raps effect of being able to put on videos from anybody from anywhere without distinguishing where they were from, just playing the videos based on the fact it was visually compelling?
It's a pro. It was absolutely a pro. Without Yo MTV Raps, the world would not have been able to see so much music that had come out. You're talking about, groups like Cookie Crew, Silver Bullet, 20 Seconds to Comply, MC Duke, the records from London, MC Solar, like, there was such a balance. And obviously not only records from New York, but Two Live Crew, Ghetto Boys, Too Short, Hammer, Compton's Most Wanted, Conscious Daughters, Def Jeff. I mean, there was so much amazing music on top of, the biggest, records, the Tone Loc records and all that. But there were just certain things that just, for me, I didn't get. And, the shiny Zubas and the little shirts and and the haircut and the glasses, like, Hammer didn't make any sense to me. So, and it didn't make any sense to my old ramen partner. So,
well, did you guys ever, I should say, meet Hammer and work things out and say, hey, we did this, and I can agree to you make your music, and I make mine. Did that
No.
come the
No,
Hammer
not at
moment
all.
ever happen?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, would you be open to have it come the Hammer moment?
I think for me personally, where I am today, yeah. I mean, I would definitely be willing to make amends and make amends and take responsibility for my share of it. And take my responsibility for the misunderstanding that started.
Well, you heard it first here on the Traffic Jams podcast. Dr. Dre has started at least one handout from Mr. MC Serch to MC Hammer. We'll see if we can get that done.
Hi, I'm Kim Osorio, executive producer and former editor-in-chief of The Source magazine, and you are watching the Traffic Jam.
What's Serch up to now? Now that we've done the third base thing, and you've hosted many different shows on different networks and done radio hosting also. What is Serch's great thing right now?
So right now we have the Timeless Podcast Company. Me and my wife of 33 years have started a joint venture with Sony and The Orchard. And we have started a podcast company called the Timeless Podcast Company to tell our stories in a way that is not only amazing content, but done in complete and total, what I love to call immersive sound design. So it's theater of the mind. And the first podcast we're dropping is a podcast called the Did I Ever Tell You the One About podcast. And the first season is Did I Ever Tell You the One About Big Daddy Kane? So it's Kane's entire story from being a kid growing up in Brooklyn to him being in the Madonna sex book. And he narrates it in the first person, and it's told by not only his family, his friends, but everyone from Vaughn Lee, aka Cool V and Mr. C, to his brother and his old ramen partners and Ralph McDaniels and everybody in between. And it's an amazing journey. And we have other podcasts coming out as well. One called Breaking Anonymity with me and Kyle Eustace, where we talk about recovery. And we interview people like, Danny Boy from House of Pain and Frank Gallagher, who's known as the Fifth Talking Head, talk about their, challenges in recovery from, redemption to, rock bottom. And then we have another podcast called Line for Line, where we bring two great MCs together and talk about their influences on each other. And that first season is Chuck D and DMC. And then we have the Serch Says podcast, which is, very similar to this, talking to my friends and people I know and kind of getting in deep about, their careers, but also, everyone from a Gary Owens to a Chris Rock to a Method Man. So that's where I'm at today.
You're watching The Traffic Jam.
If I've never said this to you before, I will say it now. I'm very proud of you for everything that you've done and everything that you continue to do. And you've always been a friend and a brother to me, no matter what.
Well,
and we've always spoken on very calm terms, no matter what was going on.
Yes, sir.
And was able to go through it. And we've been through many conventions, parties, flights, and you name it.
Yes, that is fact. That is fact.
Mm-hmm.
Hi everyone, the second exercise here, we're going to use an elastic band. You see I have them already on my ankle. What you always wanted to think about is keep your core tight and a straight back. You can use A box, a chair, a counter, your wall, in the kitchen, in the bathroom, it doesn't really matter. Keep your back straight. Everything, your hips, you don't want them to move, you want to stabilize them. 1 foot in the grass, and 1. 2, pause on the top. You want that muscles connection, 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9, and you can do 5 a little on top. 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Our time is up here on the Traffic Jams podcast. I want to thank MC Serch and give them a little more information about what's coming up with you again.
Again, the Big Daddy Kane, did you ever hear the one about Big Daddy Kane podcast? April 26th on Apple or wherever you can find your favorite podcast. Serch Says Podcast on YouTube, and you can follow me on Instagram and all my social at EMCEESERCH or at MCSERCH.
Thank you so much, Serch, for joining us here. This is your humble correspondent once again, Dr. Dre for Traffic Jam Podcasts.
Love you, Dre.
You are watching The Traffic Jam.